Give it up for Chris.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to talk to you all about how to get started with waterfalls in Tableau. A lot of people kind of hear about waterfalls in Tableau, and there's a bit of a, oh, that's really, really tough to do, or it's a bit out there. I'm hoping to make that easier, but if I don't, then don't crucify me, but we'll see how it goes. So firstly, what are waterfall charts? I've got a couple of examples here. The main idea behind the waterfall chart is to break down individual segments of a data set and then show how each one contributes to the data as a whole. So an example, on the top left, you can't see the numbers, so I'll just tell you what they are. On the top left, it's showing a total cost for a purchase, and it's just breaking down that purchase between the net cost, the delivery, the taxes, any admin fees, that kind of thing. So it's just showing how that cost is broken down. And then the one on the right is a project. So it's just saying the first week of the project took 2 weeks, the first phase of the project took 2 weeks, second phase 3 weeks, etc., and how that fits into the project as a whole. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show roughly how I've put together a waterfall, using some data, some man-made data for myself about a recent journey that I took to Mannheim in Germany. So you only actually need 2 fields in Tableau to make a waterfall chart. Everything else you can create in Tableau itself. As long as you have a field that acts as a dimension just to break down your data into individual bars, and then either a measure or a time field to act as your size and your duration for your bars, then that's everything really that you need. So once you've got both of those, you can put those onto your rows and columns on a Tableau view and set the mark type to a Gantt bar. And that's all a waterfall chart really is, it's just a Gantt view. And what we want, the challenge within Tableau is to actually extend those bars out to the start of the next event, effectively, that's happening on the screen. So that's where we have the interesting part. So you can see here we've got each of these lines, and that's the start of each of our events. But what we need is first to calculate in Tableau where the start of the next event is, and then use that to find a duration. So in the top left here, I've got my end time. That's calculated using the Lookup table calculation. For anyone new to Lookup, it acts kind of like a reference. So you can use Lookup to say, okay, I'm interested in not the cell that I'm looking at on my view, but another cell on that view. And I can use that, in this case, to pull back the time for the next row on my view. Once we have that, in the bottom right, I'm then calculating the duration by just taking that end time and taking away my start time. And the measures are aggregated here because we're using a table calc. Once we have this, we can drop our duration into our size, and that gives us admittedly not very pretty, but this gives us a waterfall. And that's the main technical challenge, really, with the waterfall. Once you've got that, the rest is kind of icing on the cake and just extras that you want to add. One of the extras I would add, you can see this lower bar in the bottom right, this one here. Because that doesn't have a following event, it doesn't have a width, because there's nothing for it to look up for a next one. So I would suggest hiding that. You can't filter that out in a normal way, because then you'll lose the duration of the previous bar. But what you can do is you can use the last table calculation. And the last function just returns a 0 if it's the last row or cell in your view, and we're just filtering out that 0 value. From here, I like to remove the axes and just add those onto the labels to make things a little bit neater, and add in a total. Total is quite simple. You just put in the total from your analytics pane like you would with a normal view, but the labels are a bit trickier. So I'll show you what I've done here. My label is actually using a new calculation, and it's another table calc, this time the window sum. And I will be honest, figuring out the actual calculation and what it should calculate by is a bit trickier, but you can just do what I did, and I just clicked through each of the options until it showed the numbers that I wanted. So there's always that. And that's pretty much it for how to put a waterfall together. I then just like to group those up into something that looks a little bit nicer. So I've just changed my view slightly and just added some colour and just made it look a little bit prettier. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and you can do a vertical one as well if you want to. Any questions?